The inaugural Africa Climate Summit kicked off in Nairobi, Kenya on Monday. The three-day event will bring together leaders from the 54-nation continent under the theme of unparalleled opportunity for Africa. Discussions will focus on renewable energy, sustainable development and financing for climate action. The summit comes ahead of the November COP28 International Climate Summit in the United Arab Emirates. For more on this, I'm joined by Naomi Wagura, Director of the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. Naomi, thank you so much for speaking to us here on Newsnight. Can you tell us, first off, what are the opportunities for Africa to play a pivotal role in bringing innovative technologies and solutions to the forefront of the global climate narrative?
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, so I think that is actually the core of this summit, to talk about what are the solutions that Africa can bring to the table to solve our own problems, but to help the world as well solve its own problems as well. So I think some of the solutions in terms of technology, its renewable energy potential in Africa is very, very high. In countries like Kenya, some days you get up to 92% renewable energy dispatched into the grid, powering our lives and powering our economy. So you have very large capacity that you could develop to then power our industries, power our homes, and power our livelihoods. But then beyond that, we also have more than 60% of the remaining arable land on the continent. So we could feed ourselves and we could feed the world as the climate changes. But you need energy for that, which is what at the Global Energy Alliance we focus on: energy poverty and reducing energy poverty on the continent. Thank you.
So it seems like a very big, audacious goal to end energy poverty with clean energy. But is it achievable given the context of the many energy and poverty challenges that we're experiencing on the African continent?
We believe it's achievable, and we believe it's achievable for many reasons. One, a lot of African countries are importers of oil and gas that we use to power economies. However little energy we actually have, however little electricity we actually have, is actually coming from imported sources. And so when there's a war in Ukraine or another disruption in the supply chains, actually the people who suffer are the lowest, the people with the lowest economic status in our society. And so actually, if we tap into the resources we have on the continent, whether that is solar, whether that is gas, whether that is geothermal, right, the low emission technologies that we could tap into, then we are actually powering our development and having energy security in a way that is actually sustainable for ourselves and for the world. So yes, I believe it's totally possible.
So in South Africa, we're sitting with stage 6 load shedding at the moment, hugely reliant on fossil fuels and dirty energy. So it's very hard to imagine that we're in any position to make a meaningful contribution to the clean energy landscape in Africa. How is South Africa perceived by other African countries, and what do we bring to the table?
I think South Africans are actually to be, congratulated for stepping forward and saying that they want to transition away from fossil fuels. And I think a big part of that is because, the resources that are available elsewhere on the continent are also available in South Africa. So you have the same renewable energy sources. And I think South Africa has actually, in some ways, been a very big leader in terms of deployment of solar energy through your renewable energy procurement programs. And so in that way, actually bringing the technology continent and paving the way in that way, I think has been instrumental in actually making other countries see the opportunities with solar energy. And I think going forward, right, we can all leverage what we have and the resources we have to connect our grids such that we can power economies in a way that is sustainable, because we all have different resources across the continent. So South Africa can leverage a neighboring country, or a neighboring country can leverage on the resources of South Africa.
So climate change does not happen in isolation. It happens within a socio-economic context. What are we seeing in Africa in terms of the impact of energy access on gender equality and inclusivity?
That is an excellent question, actually. So when you look at energy poverty on the continent, you're looking at, more than 600 million people living in rural areas, and more than 600 million people as well without access to electricity. And so the things that we're seeing on the continent more and more is that, let's say half of that population is women, vulnerable groups, huge population of living in rural areas as well. And so if you don't have energy, you really cannot think that is sustainable. So when, for example, when I'm working in Malawi together with my colleagues in country, what we're saying is that if we bring, for example, solar energy to help irrigate rice and help turn the rice into a raw product, into a polished product that can then be sold for more money, means that the youth, the women, the more vulnerable groups in that society are actually able to have more income to power their lives.
Well, we hope the inaugural Africa Climate Summit continues to go well and to make progress, not just for South Africa, but for the African continent as a whole. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. That was Naomi Wagura, Director at the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet.